The sympathetic nervous system drives our fight or flight. So that's
Yes.
our freak out song. And our parasympathetic drives our rest and digest. Like we're
Mm.
doing good. We're like, we don't have anything that we're stressed about, that we're worried about. So instead of celebrate good times, that's a little too happy for what we're talking about. Think Yanni. So
Yanni.
parasympathetic is Yanni.
Welcome, psych fans, to another fun-filled, action-packed day of psychology. Glad to have you with us. My name, once again, is Spence Kohler, and I am the psycho-educational person in today's episode. And my ever-ready co-host and partner in crime is...
Alison Fabricius coming to you from my closet of soundproofiness, which actually just means fabric. So here we are. And I am here to probably add some trauma. Not to give you trauma, but add in applications, psychological applications to trauma or traumatic implications to psychology. I've just dug myself into a deep hole. Really, we're just here to have a conversation because it's way more fun with the both of us. And
Yes.
we hope to provide you a well-rounded view of psychology, of mental health, and of just what is going on inside your head and with your body. And we
Hmm.
are continuing our discussion of the mental health trifecta. We've
Hmm.
covered the brain, we've covered the endocrine system, and today we are going to cover the nervous system with some real life application. So I am very excited to get that started today. So I'm going to turn that our time back over to Spencer so that he can dive in for us because life is lifing. And as we discussed before we hit record, life comes knocking whether we're ready for it or not. And we want to be able to give you real life applications in the moment of how best to support yourself when life comes knocking. So, Spencer, I will turn it back over to you.
Yeah, I think that's the great part about this entire adventure, this journey that we're on, is that we are allowing life and what's going on and happening in our lives to shape and form what we're talking about. And I hope people love that. I hope they grasp hold of that and say, "Oh, hey, these are real world things." I mean, we're not coming up with this curriculum and all these different topics out of a textbook or anything like that. This is happening right here, right now, and it's hard and it's difficult and it's messy, and we're going to unpack it. So, as we unpack today's topic, we're going to be talking about the nervous system. And there's a lot we could go into when we talk about the nervous system. There is a whole bunch of big words and things that we could throw out there. There is the parasympathetic nerves. There is the sympathetic nerves that we have running down our spine. The one thing I want folks to take away from this is the vagal nerve, which is the longest nerve. I like how some therapists call it the vagus nerve, as in the vagus strip. I'm not quite sure what the likeness is there, but I hear it every once in a while. I'm like, no, that's the vagal nerve. Anyway, the important part about the nervous system that we have to talk about today, and a lot of people have asked the question as to, hey, I'm hearing bits and pieces about tools. I would really love to know how they work a little bit more. And in comes the human nervous system in order to make that possible, which is really, really cool. So I will give you an example. The nervous system essentially is the information superhighway. A very simple example would be as if you stub your toe, it's your nervous system that sends the signals through the body to the brain, in which it says, ouch, I hurt my toe. It's
Or
almost
if a
like that too. Yeah.
or if a
The brain,
candle drops on your toe.
or if
Uh,
a candle drops on your toe. Or if you drop the gallon of milk that you bring home from the grocery store on your toe. Yes. And I use the toe example because I'm pretty sure that everybody, I mean, I would be hard pressed to find somebody who has not had a stub toe at one point in time in their lives. So hopefully the practical application is there.
or dinged your funny bone. Those two
Yeah.
are like common across
Oh,
the human
oh
experience.
yeah. Yeah. Funny bone is just not whoever thought of that was not funny. So with that being said, this nervous system is telling us back and forth and all over the place what to do and what's going on and what's happening. So, in earlier episodes, we have talked about something that has been a tool that's been very helpful for a lot of people. And I have had some comments and some folks who have listened to earlier podcasts who have said, "Hey, Spence, let's talk a little bit more about that." So, here's a fantastic example. In our home, one of the things that we keep on hand, and I love this because it's something that we were taught a long time ago, and it really has helped me be able to grasp and change my behavior. Okay. And that is if you go out and you get those 8 ounce bottles. I'm not talking about the regular 16s. Most folks, you grab bottles of water from Costco or whatever, and you're usually a 16 ouncer. You grab the 8 ounce bottles, okay, the really small, squatty ones, and you put those in the freezer. And as you put them in the freezer and they freeze up, you've got ice. And that bottle is really, really good. And I don't know, maybe it's my hand is big for whatever reason, but I can fit my hand around that bottle of water. Well, what's going on happening with that ice is that it sends a message up to the brain. It's like, hey, this thing that you've got in your hand, it's really uncomfortable and you got to do something about it. And so, because that message is being sent to the brain sends back to the hand, all right, we need to make a choice. Ow, this is uncomfortable. Are you going to let it go or are you going to hold on to it? And what it comes down to is the fact that now your brain is shifting gears. And here's how the nervous system engages it, okay? After that message has been sent to the brain, and let's say your body, for example, is already in fight or flight, okay? If the body is already in fight or flight, to get out of that, we have to engage the frontal cortex. And this is something that we've kind of talked about and hinted around in previous episodes. But the way that this works is it kind of shuts off that pea-sized amygdala that we talked about. That's kind of in the middle of the brain, kind of back behind the ear there. And it tells the amygdala, oh, hey, we need to make a choice or a decision. And the amygdala's like, well, I don't do that. I don't make choices. I don't make decisions. When I'm in fight or flight, I don't make good choices and I don't make good decisions. I'm not going to do that. And it doesn't. So it sends a rerouted message back up to the frontal cortex, which is our decision making factory. And because of that decision making factory that's going off, the message is, oh, I have to make a choice as to whether I'm going to let go of this ice or not. Well, that whole entire message is essentially ran back and forth several speedy times through that nervous system. And because our hand, has lots of nerve endings and such, it's really good at sending those messages. Now, another really good one too is we can tell the nervous system is intricately connected to the lungs, right? And so another example of this is when we do four square breathing, right? We breathe in for 4, we hold for 4, we
Four square
don't.
breathing gives me way more anxiety. That is not the one that I do.
Hold in the box, Allison, you can do it. So if we just simply do deep breathing, then if we
There
want
we
to follow
go.
Allison's example, we don't want to do box breathing or four square breathing. In the four square breathing, I guess I have never really understood the whole idea of the holding. Like you breathe in, you breathe out, and then you hold. I'm like,
Well, you
wait,
breathe in, you
yeah,
hold, you
uh-huh,
breathe out,
yeah,
you hold, and each one gets a four
yeah,
count. That
yeah,
makes me feel like I'm suffocating. So
yeah.
I'm like I'm dying.
It's not as natural.
But if I just am taking
Yeah.
a deep breath in through my nose
Hmm.
and out through my mouth, then I'm like, oh, I have oxygen. What a beautiful day.
Yes, I agree with that. The holding part never has made sense to me. But essentially, what we're doing is we're tapping into all the various nerves of both the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, which they're all connected to the lungs. It's so
So,
cool.
when is the parasympathetic in play? When is the sympathetic in play?
That is a really good question. And to answer that, I'm going to have to do some research and get back to you on it because I am
Okay.
not 100% sure. And here's why. And this is what's really, really hard to unpack here is that they are so closely connected. ultimately, in many respects, it starts out in the sympathetic and then goes to the parasympathetic. Because what's interesting is when you look at the spinal column, and I'm actually looking at a picture right now of the human nervous system and these two. The parasympathetic is not necessarily 100% connected to it's not a direct connection in many respects. So it has to go through a few more turns and twists and different things like that. But ultimately, I like the answer to that question, and I'm gonna find it out for you, and we're gonna answer that on one of our next things, unless you look it up while we are chatting while we're doing this, because we have been known to do this.
I did see something interesting. So I think
Yes.
that I would love your definitions as well. Um, Something that I just did a quick look at is the parasympathetic and the sympathetic kind of govern the two states of either survival or thrive.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're in one, you're in survival, and that's when you use the tools that Spencer just suggested. Because I was like, how do I know when I need to use those tools? Well, as he mentioned with the lungs, when you start hyperventilating, because the faster you breathe, the faster your heart rate goes up, or your heart rate goes up, your breathing
Mm-hmm.
goes up. And so, or when you're feeling yourself tense, like we talked about in hyperarousal, or life is just getting crazy and you feel really caught up in it, that's when you are in a fight or flight or a survival state.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're out to win at life, and so your adrenaline kicks in and you're ready to go. So that endocrine response, your body tells your hormones are kind of talking to your body, and you're going freak out, do do do. Anyway, that's for a different time, obviously. Um,
I love that though. You break into song. We do all kinds of things on this show, so we hope we keep you entertained.
keep you on your toes.
Yeah, right.
Um, but when our body hits that freak out moment and your body increases in tempo, that is the fantastic time to do that breathing, that in through your nose, out through your mouth. And I love doing a 3 count of that because the
Hmm.
idea is just let's just slow those lungs down a little bit. Let's sink back into our body instead of our mind. Or you grab that ice pack and you make your body think about what's in your hand instead of whatever is happening in your head.
Very
Um,
true.
and that's what helps us then shift to thrive. That helps us
Hmm.
shift out of scarcity. I don't have enough time. I don't have the skills and abilities. Nobody likes me. I'm doomed to fail. And it helps us shift from those thought processes. I have not had any of those thoughts in the last week. I promise.
Right.
And it shifts us to, I have enough time. Even if I don't know it right now, I know I can figure it out. I might be struggling in some of these connections, but people do care about me and I care about me and I'll support me. And so it gives your brain that time to shift from freak out. That's gonna how I'm gonna be remembering. It's
That's
time
how,
to go grab
that's
the
how it is.
ice.
Every time Allison freaks out, it's tied to a song. Freak out.
Or when you move into thrive mode, celebrate good times. Come on. So there you
When
go.
when we get a lot further on in this podcast and we have a little bit more money to spare, we're gonna have sound effects. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna add these songs to our our repertoire anyway.
Repertoire.
Yeah.
And when we talk about survival, we'll do freak out. And we talk about
Yeah.
thriving, we'll talk about celebrate. But
Celebration.
anyway,
Yeah. Love it.
that's kind of even as we're finding the technical definitions of them, that's kind of the idea of looking at what's happening. And Spencer, as you mentioned, the vagal nerve is picking up those signals throughout our
Hmm.
whole body and then sort of designating, hey, are we going this way or are we going this way? And then, as we've talked about the endocrine system, it supplies the hormones based on
Hmm.
which path we choose. If it's fight or flight, you're getting your adrenal, you're getting your cortisol, you're getting your freak out. And if
Hmm.
you're getting positive signals, then you're releasing your oxytocin, your melatonin, your hey, we're good, we're safe, we're okay, we can rest. So there's my
I
very
love that. I love that we do this together because you put it in such wonderful terms that I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say. Maybe I was too technical.
see, but I need you. So a skill set that I have is to um condense, bring
Hmm.
together. whatever what other person says. So if this was just me,
Awesome. No,
I
this is
would
great.
just be going off on random tangents. But because you present it, then I can be like, this is what I heard. Is this what you meant?
So I bring the structure, you bring the bringing it down to where everybody understands and everybody can relate to it. That's important because that's what we need. We need to know the scientific side of it, the psychology side of it, and we need to, it's beautiful. Love this podcast. Okay. Well, thanks, folks, for our listening to our rambling and stuff like that. So, one other thing that I'm going to throw out here is another example, and this is totally and completely hypothetical, but another way that it might help you relate to kind of what we're talking about. So, let's say, for example, one of my kids. And back in the day, I really had a hard time with disrespect. Oh, in my teenagers, I had a hard time with disrespect. It was not an easy thing for me. And so one of the things that I learned about really quickly is that we feel things in our body, right? So to make an example of this, first I ask people to say, okay, where do you feel nervous? So Allison, I'm going to ask you, where do you feel your nerves?
Which kind of nerves?
The bad ones. Let's say you have to give a public speech. I know you
Oh.
love that, but I mean, when you get nervous to speak,
Okay. Okay, but we feel different kinds of emotion in different parts of our bodies.
you
So
bet.
when I'm feeling nervous about public speaking, I love it, but it's still like, am I going to make a fool of myself? That question's still there. I get the butterflies in the stomach, or I get the tinglies on the top of my shoulders, or I
Yes.
get a little bit of like hair raise on the neck because I'm like, ooh. On the flip side, when I have to have a conversation with someone that I am terrified of hurting their feelings, or that it's going to go badly, or they're going to hate me for
Mm.
forever,
Mm-hmm.
that's a completely different feeling. And that feeling is a little fist around my vagal nerve, right around
Ah.
my like heart, sternum
Huh.
area. A
Yeah.
hand just reaches and grabs it, and I
Wow.
go, and I shrink up, and I
Yeah. I
freak
love
out.
that.
So that's how I know, because that feeling, that hand around my heart,
Mm-hmm.
essentially is the ultimate signal for me that I am not safe.
Yeah.
And that not safe can be physical, like
Mm-hmm.
stalker reappeared in my life. So
Mm-hmm.
I've been on high alert as I'm walking. So if someone walks too close to me, there goes that tug in,
Oh,
or
wow.
and I shrink in on myself, or having a conversation with a boss that I'm not sure how it's going to go. Feel that tenseness, feel that kind
Mm-hmm.
of pull into my center, or just having conversations where I am afraid that I'm going to mess up, or I am afraid I'm going to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Lack of safety can come from physical danger, can come from fearing we're going to disappoint someone, can
Mm-hmm.
come from I have a I've had a bad experience. What is that movie from? Oh, what is that quote from? I had a bad experience. Anyway, if any of you can tell us, please leave it in the comments below.
There you
I
go.
would love to know,
If
but
you
it
can
is.
interpret, Allison, leave a comment.
Please do. See, I might interpret for other people, but good luck
Yeah.
interpreting me, y'all.
All right.
Okay, so, but that's where I feel it. So if it's
Yeah.
happy, it's like tingly on the shoulders, tingly on the back
Mm-hmm.
of the neck, a little nervous, but
Mm-hmm.
cool. I'm excited. I'm happy. If it's not something that I'm looking forward to, if I'm afraid it will go badly, it's that hand around the heart and
Mm-hmm.
just feeling everything contract in my body.
Yeah. Great. I could not have said that better. That is phenomenal. Thank you for those descriptions. That's awesome because that's exactly what we want to pinpoint. Once we pinpoint those things, once we pinpoint how we feel, then that's the body sending the warning signal saying, oh, hey, something's going on. You're feeling something. And oftentimes we overlook that part. We're like, well, I'm angry. Okay, but where do you feel it in your body? Well, I don't know. What do you mean? You feel it in your body? Yeah, we all do. Everybody feels something, some way, shape, or form in the body. And guess what? That's the nervous system. The nervous system lights up and says, hey, Allison, you're nervous. You are afraid. You have
And
butterflies in your stomach.
And they've actually done studies where they've done body scans of people
Hmm.
while they're feeling these different emotions, and they see energy move to those specific parts of the body
Oh, isn't that
where they're
amazing?
feeling stuff. And so
Mm.
this is not just a, hey, you're feeling stuff in your body. It's your nervous system sends electrical impulses, sends literal energy to those parts of the body, trying
Hmm.
to inform you what you're feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. So the beauty of this is, and the whole, I think the whole point and purpose, I mean, there could be other point and purposes, but I think the most point and purpose is for us to be able to read ourselves and be able to say in the moment, okay, I can feel it physically, I can feel it emotionally, I feel this way. So, if, for example, I've got one of my kids that doesn't want to take out the trash, isn't doing their chores, isn't, whatever the case might be, and I have to go have a conversation with him, right? And already I know that I am upset, that I'm angry about the situation. And using, Allison's great description, I usually feel it in my chest too. I would say maybe I feel a little bit more of a heaviness. I like your whole hand, gripping your heart type of situation. I think that's a really good description of it. But yeah, I feel this pressure in my chest. Well, that's my signal to go get my ice.
Mm.
And so I do. On the way to so and so's room, one of my kids, I will grab the ice. I will have it in hand. I will help me be able to stay regulated. Now, let me back up, fill in a couple gaps here. One, as Allison was describing all these different ways that she could feel, and the central nervous system is lighting up, and we can see these patterns show up on scans. This is an indication, to go back to what we were talking about, the hyper and hypoarousal. These are indicators that we're leaving that window of tolerance, and our nervous system is helping us understand that based upon where we feel it in our bodies. So that's the warning sign. That's what I want people to realize and recognize. The next time you have that conversation that Allison was talking about, I got to have a conversation. Let's say you have to have a conversation with the boss, right? I want a raise. I'm working hard. I'm doing good, right? And all of a sudden we're just, this is really hard to do. Or let's say, for example, many people are out looking for work right now, right? You have that next job interview. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just tell the nervous system to just shh, quiet down? I have to have an interview right now, right? Wouldn't
I
that
was
be
going to
lovely?
use some stronger language, but yeah, we'll go with your shh.
Yeah, right.
Nervously.
Shh, quiet now. So it's those things that light up inside of us that are indicators for us to use our tools. And that's the point. So that's step number one. Now that we kind of have brought, this I keep wanting to call it a trinity, a trio, um, a group of three together, is you have the nervous system sending these messages to physical parts of the body. I mean, it's the same thing. If any of you have been on a first date, right? What happens to our bodies? Well, our mouth usually gets really dry, right? Our hands get a little clammy, right? I'm like, oh, why can't my hands dry out and everything? And oftentimes that's because our nervous system is going off and we are in some state of fight, flight, freeze, fawn, because of how we feel about said circumstance or situation. So with all those examples together, and folks, what I'd love for you to do is think for a minute of the last time you were in any of those situations. If anything at all, you can at least really relate to the fact that maybe there's a conversation that you need to have with somebody that you really don't want to have a conversation with, and it's going to be a hard conversation. Allison looks like she's got an example.
I do, but we're gonna wait till we see how that example resolves before I bring it here. But let's just say that I am going to be in the sympathetic nervous system
Hmm.
for a while. So I have, just so that we can tie these pieces together, the sympathetic nervous system drives our fight or flight. So that's
Yes.
our freak out song. And our parasympathetic drives our rest and digest. Like we're
Mm.
doing good. We're like, we don't have anything that we're stressed about, that we're worried about. So instead of celebrate good times, that's a little too happy for what we're talking about. Think Yawni. So
Yeah.
parasympathetic is Yawni and
Oh.
sympathetic is freak out. Um, but as Spencer, as you said, those are signals. Our nervous system is sending us signals.
Hmm.
Generally, if we're in fight or flight, it is because our body knows that something in our environment is not sustainable.
Hmm.
It cannot continue in its current parameters for very long before the stress will cause some sort of event in our lives. And we can choose to have a conversation that is scary. And if you have any sort of conversation trauma like I do, it can
Hmm.
feel life threatening.
Yeah.
But you can use these tools to support yourself to have the conversation so that you can move back to rest and digest, so that you can
Hmm.
move back into the window of tolerance and that you're calm and you're okay. Because
Yeah.
if you don't choose to, then you stay in that stressful situation and your heart takes a beating, your lungs take a beating, your relationships take a beating. You have to fake it really hard. So
Yeah.
I understand this is terrifying, and that's where when Spencer's like, you need to have that conversation.
Hmm.
My greatest fear in this life is to disappoint someone,
Hmm.
is to give them an answer that they were not expecting or they were not hoping for.
Hmm.
And guess what, guys? I'm human. That happens a lot.
All the time.
Like,
Yeah.
we cannot be everything to everyone. We cannot expect that of ourselves. I do anyway. Um,
Yeah.
I grew up in an environment where that's what I thought I was supposed to do, and I have
Hmm.
carried that on into adulthood. And I think many of us have, in one degree or another, that we're supposed to never disappoint anyone, never fall short, never appear less than what we should be.
Hmm.
And that feeling definitely puts us in the sympathetic response.
Hmm.
And once we have that conversation, once we face that fear, we go back to the resting state. We go back to our window of tolerance where we can tackle stuff and we're not on edge.
Hmm.
So I will save that conversation until I have some sort of resolution because it's currently weighing on my mind. But
Yeah.
just because I am ready for a conversation does not mean that the other person is ready for the
Hmm.
conversation.
Yeah.
And part of the purpose of these tools, sometimes you just have to have the conversation. Sometimes the dam is just going to burst and you'd rather have the
Hmm.
conversation than blow up. If that is the case, please have the conversation and hold a frozen water bottle while you do it, or a bag of peas. That's
Yeah.
another one. Bag
Oh
of
yeah.
peas on your chest,
Hmm.
fantastic.
Hmm.
Um, but sometimes being thoughtful about the conversation, setting yourself up for success.
Hmm.
Sometimes it can feel like our only option is to just rip off that band-aid and just dive in. I've tried that for 2.5 years of my life. Conversations never went as well as they could have, and so there was a
Yeah.
lot of repair. Um, so sometimes go have a snack, go take a nap,
Hmm.
inform the person that you want to have a conversation that you would like to talk to them, and offer the subject to them. Do not leave them wondering what is coming.
Hmm.
Inform them, but say you need a beat. If they need to prep, great, they can prep. And then come together,
Hmm.
convene, and have the conversation. So, our tools are to help you approach situations in a healthier way so there is less disruption, so there is less breakage, so that there is less disconnect, because we want to help you guys connect. Life is
Hmm.
better when you're connected to yourself and you're connected to your people.
Oh, so much.
I will now step off of that soapbox
No,
and
it's
we'll turn the
great,
time back
great
to you.
soapbox. So there's a couple things that you connected some dots on that I want to reiterate because I think they're important to remind people of as we go through this. So the sympathetic nervous system is when we are in that state of hypo or hyper arousal. And the parasympathetic is when we are in that window of tolerance, that state in which we can, survive and we can think and we can reason, we can do all these different things. And so if you feel yourself slipping into those, because there's different parts of it. So if you're, example, if you're becoming angry and you're feeling it in your chest, that's because you're slipping into the sympathetic and you're going to go into hyperarousal, right? If you are feeling nervous because you have to give a talk or a speech, which I know a lot of us can relate to because most of us have had to do that in some way, shape, or form. Then there again, we tend to feel the butterflies in the stomach, and then we slip into that state of hyper or hypoarousal, and the sympathetic nervous system there again takes over for us. And one of the things that I loved how you said, like, okay, we can't stay there, but many of us do, right? We pack up there and we live in that sympathetic nervous system. And this is where the whole idea behind the phrase stress kills, right? And that's what I think we need to make sure everybody knows and understands this is when we stay in a state of hyperarousal, when we stay in a state of hypoarousal, when we are dysregulated, for long periods of time and we don't spend time in a window of tolerance, then that's when, like you said, the heart, the lungs, the endocrine system there, right? The secretion of hormones that's going on happening in the body, all of those different things, right down to our overall physical health can be at risk if we pack up and we live there.
Because the more stress that you're living in, the more that your body secretes cortisol. And the more that your body secretes cortisol, the greater strain that that is on your heart. Um,
Hmm.
Cortisol weight is basically an apron in front of you. So it all just goes on that core right in front of you. So
Yeah, I wondered what that was.
so the longer that you are living in stress, you're looking at increases of adrenaline, you're looking at increases of cortisol, and it's your body's just not meant to take it. Also gonna this is a random tangent, but I am depressed but fascinated by this statistic.
Hmm.
Um, so when you are in a state of sympathetic functioning, you also just have a greater degree of loneliness.
Hmm.
Because it's harder to connect to the people around us. You self-isolate because you're so stressed. You
Hmm.
just feel like you're not really connecting with people.
Right.
So when loneliness is running our lives, it is the equivalent of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And I just think it's important to keep in mind that you might be surrounded by people and still feel very lonely.
Yeah.
And that then also increases your stress because
Hmm.
we as humans are herd animals. We as
Hmm.
humans are meant. And even if you are the most introverted person on the planet, you still need people.
Hmm.
It's why isolation in prison is such a dangerous discipline technique for me
Yeah.
because people need people.
Hmm.
And so the more that we can pack up and move out of the sympathetic response, the better we are connecting and the better we are helping our bodies return to their normal state.
Hmm. I love it. That is fantastic. I hope, folks, that that wraps up a lot of different things and helps you kind of package one of the reasons why we took the time to go through and we talked about these three different specific areas, because that is probably the whole of why this stuff is so important. It's one of the reasons why, like we've said earlier, we see so many people who pack up and live in the sympathetic nervous system, and therefore they're always snapping at each other. They're always on high alert for any type of slighted comment or issue, and that's the problem. I love how you brought up introversion and extroversion. One of the things that's interesting about introverts, like you said, is there needs to be human connection somewhere in there. Does it have to be a whole lot? Like, do you have to have a whole thousand, group crowd? No, but there has to be that small amount. But if we don't ever get out of that sympathetic nervous system and live more in the parasympathetic nervous system, we are constantly living in a state of fear, stress, anger, frustration, all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, who wouldn't snap if we're constantly there? Um, it's a hard place to live. It's a hard place to pack up. And so we look to these tools, right? We look to the tools. So the couple of tools there again, I want to reiterate. We talked about the ice and holding it in our hands. I want to get back to my example too, of grabbing the ice on my way to go talk to whichever child is not accomplishing their tasks, their chores, and different things like that. Having the ice in my hand is continually sending that impulse through the nervous system to my brain, helping me stay in a state of parasympathetic, and so I can stay in that window of tolerance. Another way of saying it, and that helps me be able to have better conversations. It helps me be able to think better, because one of the things that's interesting about those of us that are of the male persuasion, we tend to really quickly snap into, rage, anger, all those different things. Partly because that's a lot of what we've been modeled, and but partly because we're always there. We're always ready for that fight or flight to jump on a situation because we've been raised as protectors and guardians and all those kind of different things. And so it's a natural tendency to do that. But if we understand our body, if we understand where we feel things, that one is the first line of defense. The second one is to grab a tool to help yourself. And we're going to list a couple of these tools because I know some folks have been like, oh, I want to learn more about these tools and stuff. We've talked about the ice. We've talked about breathing. Just some regular deep breathing can engage oxygen into the lungs, which sends information up to the nervous system. Phenomenal opportunity right there. The other thing too is bilateral stimulation. And by that, one of the things we're talking about, and I think we've talked about this before in previous episodes, we're getting to the point where I'm not remembering episode after episode after episode because we've recorded so many. But it bears reminder. So if you tap and you can cross your arms like the dad or something like that. Anyway, that's probably a poor way of putting it.
The
But anyway,
butterfly. It's the butterfly
butterfly,
one.
yeah.
Cross your
You,
wings.
you cross your wings. You can tap on your shoulders. You can tap on either side of your collarbone. You can go for a walk. Walking is bilateral stimulation. Running, that's one of the other reasons why people love running, is because we are engaging both sides of the central nervous system when we go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. You can simply tap each leg back and forth one at a time. Boom, 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 boom. In therapy, we have tappers, right? We have things that fit on your wrists that can give you a little bzz, 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 bzz. It's not electrical shock therapy, folks. I'm just saying it just vibrates on either side of your wrist and going back and forth. Well, that's bilateral stimulation. It is sending information through the information superhighway, which happens to be the central nervous system, in which we were talking about today, up to the brain and engaging that bilateral stimulation. For me, sometimes I sway back and forth.
My entire life.
Being musically inclined, I'm a human metronome, I guess. Um, I tend to sway back and forth when I start thinking about some things. I will give you a really, really good example. So, to get through high school, one of the things that I did, and I know a lot of my high school friends who are probably listening to this are like, "Well, Spence, you had it all together." I didn't, and if they thought I did, that was a really good fake job. But that being said, I spent hours and hours and hours walking and talking on my front porch through a lot of the issues and a lot of the things that are going on and happening in my life to get through some of the hard, difficult times, some of the really dark times, of high school and adolescence and young adulthood. And so that walking there again helps. Talking out loud really
Hmm.
engages your mind differently than if you're just thinking things inside of your head.
And if you are neurodivergent, you are probably a verbal processor. Like the likelihood of being a verbal processor is much higher as a
Oh man,
neurodivergent.
are you saying I'm neurodivergent? Because
Also, just saying
I
things
could
out
very well
loud.
be.
Also, just saying things out loud can really help. Some two of the tools that I was thinking of that either once you're in sympathetic response or if you feel your body starting to go there
Hmm.
is grab a recording and like grab a recording app, device, whatever, and
Hmm.
talk out loud into that.
Hmm.
Not necessarily because you're going to go back and listening to it, but for me, verbal processing isn't just saying it out loud. I need it to have a receptacle. I need it to go somewhere. And so a friend of mine told me about you send Marco Polos to yourself. So I have the Marco
Oh
Polo app,
yeah.
and so I just record polos to myself. Excuse me, and then I have processed things and I have my ahas and I have my epiphanies and I don't have to bring anyone else into it. So that's a tool I love when I feel that shift coming to be like,
Hmm.
okay, nope, let's pause or journaling. Like just get it like the tactile actual event of having it pass from your brain out your hand onto the paper
Hmm.
can have it's a very regulating effect. And also our thoughts spiral when it's in our head and it has nowhere else to go. So getting it on paper helps us actually see the connective pieces and
Hmm.
be able to handle it step by step. Um, Real fast, Spencer, I just wanted to connect all of this back to the
Hmm.
brain
Oh
because
yes.
we just last episode had talked about synapses.
Hmm.
And so when our nervous system gets information that it has felt before, it sends the message to the brain, and the brain goes, ah, we know this. We know the program we run. And so it goes shooting down that neural pathway that person rolled their eyes at me, or in your case, my child has not taken the garbage out.
Yeah.
And so they're disrespecting me. Everything that I do for them doesn't matter. I'm insignificant. And your brain just goes, and I'm not saying you feel that way. I'm saying that when people don't do chores I've asked them to do, that's how I
Oh,
feel.
yeah, totally.
And my brain just goes marching down this pathway of old beliefs because before I've even thought about it. It's just we're
Hmm.
just down that path, and then I'm more stressed and I'm more frustrated and I'm more hurt.
Yeah.
Whereas if we use these tools, that puts this dam on that neural pathway so that we actually have to stop and go, oh, wait a minute. My kid is a teenager. Your kid is a teenager. Uh,
Right.
the people in my life are stressed out, overwhelmed, exhausted, whatever it is. But it
Hmm.
it it stops us from making it about ourselves in a negative way, and instead just says we're all people, and sometimes we don't do things we said we'll do,
Hmm.
and we're human, and we can't show up for everybody the same way all the time. And so
Yeah.
these tools are what helps put a block on that synapse, so we don't just go sliding all the way down.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. And I want to go back to your journaling again. Oh man, what a lost art. When you think about ancestors and what they passed down to us, that is one thing that I wish everybody had passed down to them was the religious journal writing that often happened back in the 1800s. I wish we could bring it back, and I wish more people would jump on and do it. So many times people, because their central nervous system is firing off, and things are just highest, and they're having issues with anxiety or depression or all these different things. What happens when you put your head on the pillow and it's time to go to sleep? The mind races, right? Just race, 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 race. Journal it, write it down, right? A sleep journal is helpful. Another thing, just regular journaling about your life every single day. Phenomenal tool to help capsulize everything in the brain. Like you said, that tactile stimulation feeds us in a unique and special way, and that's important. That's huge to unpack. The other thing that I want to throw out is grief. Grief writing is another big one. One of the things I've taught from the earliest part of my career is that if you start journaling about your grief, about your loss, and I'm not even talking about death per se. If you've lost a job recently, if you've lost income, if you've lost a direct supervisor because maybe they retired, maybe you lost a good friend that moved away, or all these different things. We mourn and we are grieving the loss of things that we no longer have in our life. So it's always a good idea to journal some of those things. Grief writing is a huge and integral way to work through some of that trauma and some of those problems, some of those issues. So that's one of the big things that I highly recommend as another tool to help you. If you have sleeping problems, great way to handle it. Dealing with loss, great way to handle it. And all you do is you simply sit down and you start writing, right? You start writing whatever comes to mind. It doesn't need to make sense. We're
Mhm.
not worried about punctuation. We're not worried about grammar. We're, we're not worried about any of that stuff. Just start writing. And then you can start to formulate stuff. And then you can see. And the beauty of it is, I remember early on in my career, I was sitting in a grief group and I had an elderly gentleman who had lost his wife. He just said, I don't feel like I'm making any progress. Here it is a year later since I lost my wife, and I don't feel like I am getting any better. I still tear up. Things still make me cry. Things still make me remember her, and I'm still in pain and I'm still in hurt. And he was really upset about it. And I told him, I said, how would you go home? And I want you to look through your grief journal that you've been writing in. I said, you've been writing in it, right? He said, yeah, I have. I say, go home and read the beginnings of it. Read some pages in the middle of it, and then read the last couple of entries you've made, and then tell me what you find. So he comes back the next week's grief group and he's like, oh my word, that was the best thing I could have done. I said, really? That's great. What did you learn? And he said, one of the things that I learned is that I was a mess in the very beginning. And I said, yeah, that tends to happen when we're grieving the loss of a loved one, especially a long-term companion. And he said, and then I got to the middle and I read a couple pages in the middle of my writing, and I could see growth, right? I could see change. I could see different things like the tears are less and less, but they happen every once in a while. Anyway, I saw patterns of change and things. And then I read the ones that I had recently done over the last couple of days. And he said, Spence, I am making progress. I am changing. I am getting better. He says, it's slow. And I said, yeah, it can be slow, but that's okay. You know, you have to take this at your own pace and at your own level and move in your own way. And so anyway, that's a big one. So today we've talked about and
Oh, do not
solidified.
wrap up yet.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
do
not
not wrap
wrapping
up
up.
yet. Okay, I
I'm
was
not
like, I've
wrapping
got
up.
tons on grief.
I'm just mentioning that we've talked about a handful of tools that you can implement now. And again, I want to tie those back to the feeling that we had when we have a feeling in our mind or in our bodies, when we have that signal or warning go off, that's when we need to use those. That's when you need to go, oh, and the next time those pop up, give them a little gratitude and say, "Oh man, you know what? I'm so very grateful to feel anxious or nervous or maybe even a little scared. Oh, I'm so grateful. You know, I can feel anger. All the feelings are there for a reason. All the feelings are there for a purpose, right? And if they are there for a reason and they are there for a purpose, then we should use them for said purpose. And that is to help us decide how we are going to react when we feel these feelings. And if we grab those tools, we can have better conversations, we can have better relationships, we can have better connections with all the different people that's going to happen. All right, Allison, you've got more you want to say. Take it away
Thoughts.
here.
Well, and actually, I appreciate that wrap up because I think there's so much power in offering gratitude for those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
For most of my life, I judged them and thought I was a horrible person for having them. And that kind of just entrenches you more in the self-judgment synapses.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of going, "Ah, why am I still so nervous to have this conversation? What kind of an idiot am I? Why normal people can have these conversations? Why can't I just pull myself up by the bootstraps and untwist my panties and have the conversation?"
Mm-hmm.
And acceptance really is a powerful gift to give ourselves
Mm-hmm.
of, and instead of going, "Ah, why is my body such an idiot? Or why am I such an idiot?" It's like, oh, my nervous system is telling me that there's stuff here. Cool. That can also be termed as a trigger. Like when you're triggered, it's your sympathetic nervous system has gone into high gear.
Yeah.
Um, and our triggers simply tell us where there's wounds. Our triggers
Mm-hmm.
simply tell us where we've been hurt before or what we're scared of.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's an invitation not to hide from them, but to look at them. And that's where I love journaling because journaling then can reveal to us where those wounds are so that we don't have to keep feeling that degree of panic. Because once you look at the wound, your body's not going, we have no, like, you don't know that this is there and you're going to keep running into it and we're going to get hurt again. Once you look at it, your body's like, oh, cool, you looked at it. We don't have to remind you that that exists all the time because now you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more comfortable you get with its existence, the easier it is to face those difficult conversations, the easier it is to live life. So in that vein of not judging what you feel, on grief, on loss. Also just want to put a plug in. Sometimes we experience grief and loss like that older gentleman did when
Mm-hmm.
he lost his wife. And it is debilitating and it is heart-wrenching and it's messy and you don't know how you're going to go on. And that is a real, true, honest experience. And if you have felt that, I am deeply sorry. Right before getting on this call, I saw a message from a friend of mine whose mother had just died.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And those happen for all of us. Other experiences and ones that I am more familiar with was the loss of a marriage. And that I think I grieved the ideal of what a marriage, what I thought a marriage was more than I grieved the marriage itself. because by the end of it, I was just kind of done. And so, individuals who have been on a very long, emotionally taxing journey, if all you feel for a while is relief, you're not a bad person.
Mhm.
If, or maybe a loved one has been going downhill for a long time and you've had to watch and you feel relief for them, please love yourself. You're not a bad person. I lost my grandma a few years ago, and just because of life and life being life, it took a long time for me to really feel that she was gone because we hadn't really been close for a number of years. And my fault, life's fault, whatever, all of the above. And so for a long time, it was just kind of like, yeah, okay, like she's gone. And now it's when memories come and hit me, and I go, oh, I remember that. That was so special. That was so important. I find that so valuable now. And so if you're not going through the 5 stages of grief at the same speed that other people do, there's nothing wrong with you. Maybe it's denial kicking in, maybe it's relief kicking in, maybe it's you're just so busy with everything else and you were afraid to slow down and actually have to feel it.
Mhm.
Whatever any of those things are, please offer yourself compassion because beating yourself up is not going to help process any of the things that are just waiting to crash upon you
Yeah.
um, any better. And so I come from this from we also can grieve what we wished could have been. We can grieve the relationship we wish that we could have had. We grieve possibilities that were just out of reach. Um, we might spend more of our life than we thought possible grieving never having that conversation that could have changed everything and just living with regret. So, wherever grief might be coming up in your life, it doesn't have to be a loved one. It doesn't have to be a marriage. It doesn't have to be anything. Any time that we are feeling regret or loss or loneliness or uncertainty, that journaling tool can be powerful. That verbally processing something can be powerful. That bilateral stimulation, whatever tool you choose to use, it is your right as a human being to use it. Like you deserve to use it, whatever your experience might be. Please don't shame yourself. Life is too hard without the shame we inflict on ourselves, whatever our life experience might be. Compassion, the more compassion we extend to ourselves, the more compassion we have to extend to others. And ultimately, I think that's what we all want
Mhm.
is to be able to show up in a supportive way for other people. Who or your animal or whatever thing that is in your life that is important to you, whatever that might be, the more compassion we show ourselves, the greater capacity we have to show up for other people or other things.
Speechless. That was great. Yeah. I think we ought to end it on that note right there and call it good for this session and say that once again, you, our listeners, yes, you, the one that we are talking to, the one that we are bringing these tools to, the one that we are advocating for, the one that we are trying to be there for and connect with when we do our podcast. You are the one who is special. You are special. You are special because you're here and you're still trying and you haven't given up yet. Don't give up. Hang in there. Hang in there because tomorrow is a new day and there are new opportunities. Even though it may seem hard and difficult, maybe adulting as you really, really, snookered. It's just, it's hard, and we realize and recognize that it's hard. But we're here. We're here for you to help you be successful and help you feel like you are seen, you are heard, you are understood. And if anything we've talked about today, anything at all, has really resonated with you, has really helped you in some way, shape, or form, please take a moment and make a comment and write down a thought or two. Tell us what really hit you. Tell us what really impacted you. Tell us, where you are. We love reading the comments. We are excited about hearing from our listeners that are taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us and to join us on this journey to moving forward and to keep moving forward as we put one foot in front of the other, as we take one step at a time, and as we make one choice after another to make who we are and where we are work. Remember always that you are very, very special individuals that we do this for all the time, every day. Allison, what do you want to add to that?
Life is not for the faint of heart. And no matter how frustrated or confused or not living up to your expectations of how you thought you were supposed to live, you are stronger than you know, and you matter more than you will ever guess. And please stick with it. Please stick with it, and please reach out and please share. We do this because we believe we can build a better world, and this world is better because you guys are each in it. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a part of what we do, and I look forward, I will not put words in Spencer's mouth. I look forward to talking to you all next week. And as Spencer said, please leave comments. Please tell us what you'd like to know more. Even if there's just definitions, if you want more
Oh,
reference
yeah.
material, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is, if we've just piqued your fancy, please let us know. And we will either do an episode on it or we will respond and reply with a whole crap ton of references. And also, please be kind to each other. As you are all commenting and responding, we are all on different places on this journey, and kindness goes a very long way. So, thank you all for joining us tonight.